But I am starting off the live streams now with a new segment here. We're going to kick these wonderful gatherings off with a trip in the past to talk about a year in music, depending on the live stream number that we are on. So this being out of the tiles number 7, we're going to start with the pivotal Summer of Love of 1967. So, a monumental year in music. 1967 saw the debut albums of The Doors and Pink Floyd. Elvis married Priscilla. The first Monterey Pop Festival and The Who were opening for Herman's Hermits on a U.S. tour.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was
good. How'd you like to open up? How'd you like to be following those guys after they destroy the set?
Right. And they come out with Tommy 2 years later.
Yeah. I mean, to see them in '67, like the energy that those guys had would have been bananas.
Oh, that would be phenomenal. Oh, yeah. But that year, let's see, I've got a couple lists here, which does tie into Music Rewind this year, unintentionally, but it kind of did. But 67 was the release of Sgt. Pepper's, the #1 global album of the year.
Yep.
Followed by Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? The Doors debut album, The Doors. Cream, Disraeli Gears. The Velvet Underground and Nico, also their debut album. The Monkees, more of the Monkees. Love Forever Changes, which came up a lot, and I have no idea what that is.
Band Love?
Is that?
Yes, the band. They have a song. I'm drawing a blank, and I wish Danny was here because it's a really good song. But it's like acoustic, and I'm gonna cheat and kind of look it up because it's gonna drive me nuts.
Well, to round out that
it's
top
an
10,
interesting.
To round out that top 10, you also got Jimi Hendrix, Axis, Bold as Love, Aretha Franklin's I Never Loved a Man, The Way I Love You, and the Rolling Stones, Between the Buttons.
Now there was Jimmy actually, I think, released 2 records that year.
Well, yeah, he had Are You Experienced, which was
Right.
number 2 on that, and then
the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour was also out that year.
Yeah. Any guesses on some of the best-selling singles of the year?
Oh God, 67.
Based on
I know
those albums.
I mean, I know it's not it wouldn't be my stuff, but like probably Respect.
That's in there.
Aretha.
Yep.
Maybe I don't know, the Bernadette, Four Tops. I'm trying to go for R&B hits from that year.
Oh, you got Procol Harum as #1 single, A Wider Shade of Pale.
I was gonna say that, but yeah, that's a great song.
That's a beautiful song.
Yeah,
I love that tune. Love the lyrics because they make no sense.
Yeah, I think 1967 was also probably, not saying it was the first year probably of LSD, but it was probably the most popular drug at the time in 1967.
Well, then you got it's a couple of Beatles tracks, the All You Need Is Love, Hello, Goodbye, and Penny Lane, those singles they popped out there before Sgt. Pepper's. A couple of Monkees tracks, I'm a Believer and Daydream Believer. The Box Tops, The Letter.
Yep. Brown Eyed Girl?
Not in the top 10. It wasn't one of the top 10.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, you got the Scott McKenzie San Francisco song, the hippie song.
Yes, with Flowers in Your Hair.
Yep.
Yeah. That's, you know what, Steve? That's I think that's probably on your favorite soundtrack, the Forrest Gump.
It is.
Yeah.
That was the first time I ever heard it. But you've also got Piper at the Gates of Dawn.
Yes.
That year. It's not going to make any top selling lists, but I mean, personal to me on that one.
No, but wasn't See Emily Play like a top hit in the UK though? And I know that's not on that record, but it was like the single before the record came out.
And Arnold Lane.
And Arnold Lane, yeah. Because those two weren't on that album, which is
they were on re-releases at least.
Yeah, because I remember because the big box set that had And I think you probably have it too. The one that like if you put it together, it makes Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah, that one because that's got the early singles on there. It's like a whole
Yeah.
separate disc of.
Yeah, it's a great disc of weirdness.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what. Like, it's too bad they mess with that man. Who I
Sid
mean,
Barrett.
I know. Yeah, I know the rumor is like they just everybody slipped acid into him almost every day. But
Well,
I know he was also bipolar, so that I mean, drugs like that really don't help. But what could have been? What an
I think
interesting
that's
guy.
really kind of what it boils down to is you had a gentleman with extreme emotional, not emotional, but psychological issues as a
Yeah,
baseline, and then you throw in drugs and excess and a little bit of stardom. I mean, it was just a setup for failure at that point.
yeah. I mean, but like, what a charismatic front man, though. Like, honestly, like some of the videos I've seen and some of the things I've read, he was like the star. You know, it's similar to it's kind of weird. I never thought of this before, but when Andrew Wood, he was the lead singer of Mother Love Bone. He was just like a star. He was the it guy. He had the it factor as a lead singer, and then he died right as their album came out. And then Jeff Ament and Stone Gossard, Mike McCready got together and created Pearl Jam like a year later. And it's interesting to see, what would have happened because you think about Pink Floyd, he's on what one or two more songs in maybe the second record.
Yeah, Saucer Full of
Sid,
Secrets has at least one, the Jug Band Blues,
right,
and that's a stretch.
and then he's gone, and then it's a completely different band and an experiment for years, and then they just break out with Dark Side and Wish You Were Here and Animals and
Well, maybe
The
even express
Wall.
their own guilt of number one, booting him from the band. Could they have done more?
Hmm.
But then using that grief, they wrote Dark Side and Wish You Were Here
Right.
based on that grief and regret. So then they became superstars on top of it
Yeah.
using they've been public about that, like, was it all the right thing? And great music came out of it, but what about
All
Sid?
right. Yeah, and it's too bad. He wasn't like a great guitar player or anything. Like, so you probably needed David Gilmour in the band, anyways. You know, like to round out your sound. But like the front man and how charismatic the guy was.
Right.
The things I've read about him, he's just like he was like one of the coolest guys you could have ever met. Kind
Yeah.
of weird, obviously. But,
Well, we've all known those guys. They're just the center of the room. No, I mean,
Mhm.
if you ask them to do something, they're not do anything. They're completely, useless from a talent perspective of, they couldn't change a tire, but damn it, they're the center of attention in every room they walk into.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah,
Well, that
great,
crazy
great
story of
record.
when they were recording Wish You Were Here and an overweight bald guy walked in and just sat down in the recording room. And I don't know what song they were recording at the time. I mean, you could say it was Shine On or Wish You Were Here or whatever, but it was during that album recording.
3 out of the 5 songs are about him.
Exactly. But it was like a shock to him. They're like, who's that guy? And then someone said, that's Sid. And then he was still lost. He couldn't communicate. He was just
Yeah,
like a zombie. And then he left. So it was just, that's a wild story.
yeah. It's such a if you played that album for somebody who really only knows the classic rock hits and didn't know the history of the band, they'd be like, There's no way this is this band." Like, such a different sound, and I mean that whole year though is like such a different sound. Like Strawberry Alarm Clocks, Incense and Peppermint,
Yeah. Well, and
like
then
super psychedelic.
I have a list here of say other notable releases. You've got Donovan Mellow Yellow, The
Hmm.
Birds Younger Than Yesterday, Jefferson Airplane, Surrealistic Pillow,
Oh
Grateful,
yeah, White Rabbit, man.
mhm.
Like Alone.
Grateful Dead, self-titled, um, Country Joe and the Fish, Electric Music for the Mind and Body, Big Brother and Holding Company, little
I
Janice
love
on
it.
that one,
Janice.
Alice's Restaurant, Arlo,
Was that Alice? Was that 67?
apparently, according to the
Oh,
internet.
we listened to it, I think, 3 times on Thanksgiving. On our, uh, we definitely listened to it on the ride home to the valley, and then I had it playing in the car, like when we were going to the different houses on Thanksgiving. And my wife's like, "Why do you play that?" I go, "Because it's a Thanksgiving song. You play
Exactly.
like you play the turkey song. If they want to hear the Thanksgiving song by Adam Sandler, I want to hear Alice's Restaurant by Arlo Guthrie."
I played the Thanksgiving song for my kids like on YouTube, and they just stared at me like, "What the hell is this, Dad?"
God,
It was lost on them.
I wish turkey only cost a nickel. Just a great song. I mean, obviously you have, The Last Waltz too, but those 2 songs are just the Thanksgiving songs. Like, it's just such a ramble of insanity, Alice's Restaurant, you know?
Yeah, but it's a
Like, the
story
chorus is
that
a fun
it,
song, like
well, the chorus that you hear at the beginning and the end only.
mhm.
But when I know the story front to back, and it's just wonderful to hear it played. And I know he did several re-recordings of it years later, and uh, they don't really hit as hard as the first one to me. It's an honest song, and it tells a story ish. Once you get
Yeah,
to the,
and how much was that was ad-libbed? Like, or did he come in sitting down, like, ready to
I
rock
think
on that? I mean,
I
obviously the
think he
chorus he had written.
I think he wrote it, but it was his story. I mean, like it
Okay.
literally happened to him with the whole uh, uh picture 8x9 color glossy photos with the circles and arrows on the back of each one telling them what each one was, and
Yeah.
the trial with the CNI dog, and then the blind justice. I love it.
Yeah, then I saw that your name on the bottom of a garbage pile. Well, I made sure I put that there, sir. That's where I wanted to leave it.
Then getting
It's
going to the
classic.
draft house and having at Whitehall Street and getting poked and prodded and assigned to Group W.
Yeah. I mean, just like it's clever. Like the first time you hear it, you're kind of like, "What the hell is going on here?" And the more you listen to it and realize like how it's just like a wild ass story. And if you go into it like, okay, it's just like it's like a story like you would hear some rummy tell at the bar. Like, I got this
Yeah,
story about this time, and it's 20 minutes later, and you're like, what the hell just happened to me? And that's kind of what it is. And
yeah.
and you got the people laughing in the crowd with them and everything. It's great. Especially I wonder if that was the first time he played that. You know
I
what I mean?
could have been.
Like, could you imagine being in the audience going, "What the fuck is this guy still going on with this damn shit?" And like, you could go get a beer, come back, and be like, "All right, well, I guess we're still at Alice's Restaurant."
Well, I like he plays with the crowd at the end too. He's like, just I want to hear y'all when it comes back around on the guitar. Then they sing the chorus, and he's like, "That was terrible."
Yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, it's so funny because like I said, I played it for my wife's first time, and then I was talking to her dad, and Marissa was like, "Dad, you ever heard of this Alice's Restaurant?" And he looked at me and he smiled. He goes, "Did you play that for Marissa?" And he was like, he goes, "You're evil." And my dad said the same thing because I have it on vinyl and it's my dad's. And he's just like, "Oh, Alice's Restaurant, what a great vinyl." It's the whole first half.
Well, it was always played on the classic rock stations back home, and
Hmm.
my dad, my cousin Alan, they would make sure that got turned up whenever it was at the family event. All the aunts would roll their eyes, like, "Oh, this again." Oh,
Right. I'm in the it's not classic rock, but it's
folk.
93 XRT
Oh,
in Chicago. Um, there was a DJ in the city. His name was Lynn Bramer, and rest in peace. He was the voice of like Cubs opening day, like at Yachtski's, and he loved the Cubs and he loved music, and he would like introduce big bands all the time at shows I'd go to. And he was the guy who brought it to XRT, and he would play it at 7, o'clock in the morning in entirety, and then like noon or 11, and then again at like 5 or 6. Like like 3 times, and he would make them play it, and it was just I remember the first time hearing that he would do that, and the guy's great, like, he's really missed in Chicago because he was XRT, like, for a lot of people.
To clear out the rest of 1967 here, I've got the Grammy winners for the year,
Oh,
and so
interesting.
album of the year, Sergeant Pepper's.
Yeah, I mean, I know you did a whole episode of Sergeant Pepper's, and I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's not my favorite Beatles record," blah 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 blah. To say that Sergeant Pepper's like did not, I mean, the stuff that they did in that studio without Pro Tools, without, you know, 16 track taping,
Yeah.
they were cutting stuff with a razor blade to like make those noises and all that stuff. It's insane what that record did, like for music itself. So, I mean, I will no dying on a hill or anything, Steve, but I that is the record of the year. There's no way it's not. I mean, I love Hendrix and the Doors and Rolling Stones, but Sergeant Pepper's changed everything. That's just like my opinion, man. But
No, I completely agree, and it's definitely one of the few times the Grammy was, properly awarded. Uh,
yeah,
the
yeah.
it's quite amazing what they did with the equipment they had, and I know the Beatles had the clout and the money at the time to do whatever the hell they wanted to, which helps. They can go to George Martin and be like, "Oh, I don't want this. I want the 24 track mechanism that's down the road." Well, it's not here. I don't care. Bring it here. They,
Right.
they had the ability to do that, and it shows. And that's, I mean, they were firing on all cylinders as far as I'm concerned. Creativity, working together, we're even working solo on, because some of those tracks are definitely solo tracks,
Oh
but
yeah.
it was just it was that was a special moment in time on that one, and you're right, it changed everything from then on.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I mean, in a little bit, it changed them too, because I think it was that their first studio record that they did not tour on,
well,
right?
this
Or was that Revolver?
they lost the manager. What was his name?
Brian
Um,
Epstein.
Epstein.
I think he died either that year or like the year after.
Yeah, it was right at this album, and so that's where they changed, because there was no one to corral them
Yeah.
anymore.
And I mean, and you could see I mean, you could see the move that way. Like you go
Mhm.
to Rubber Soul, and the joke is always like Rubber Soul is when they start smoking dope. And then Revolver is a little bit of acid, and then Sergeant Pepper's is 1,000% acid. And like mushrooms, like you can tell it, they're and the story is their
I would
dentist
I
gave
would
them
say the
all these.
1,000% would be Magical Mystery Tour, because that.
Well, right. I mean, it's that same year, but that's for sure. Like with the blue meanies and all that shit. That's a whole
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
whole other
Magical Mystery
thing.
Tour is a different conversation. Um, but then, say, Song of the Year, we've got Up, Up, and Away by the Fifth Dimension. Uh,
Oh,
Best New Artist is Bobby Gentry. I don't know.
uh, he
I couldn't tell
sang.
you.
It'll drive me nuts, but
Uh, Best
I've heard
Country and
this one.
Western is Song is Jackson by Johnny Cash and June Carter.
Oh, wonderful song.
Absolutely. Best Score from a Cast album, Cabaret. Had to throw that.
Cabaret. All right.
I don't know if they still do this, but there was two categories for best album cover: one graphic arts and one photography. And graphic arts was Sergeant Pepper's. Uh,
Yeah,
Photography was Bob Dylan's Greatest Hits.
the greatest hits.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. His greatest hits one was in 1967.
Right.
Like, what? I mean, he came out with the record that year. I think it was like Nashville Skyline or something.
John Wesley Harding.
John Wesley Harling. And I think, yeah, the big single off of that, like I'm trying not to cheat looking at my phone because I have my top. I have my own playlist, that, Steve, of
Yeah.
every year, and he that was very. It wasn't like the Lady Lade voice yet, but I think it was coming. Where he's like kind of like the sexy crooner in that, and not as oh, all right. Now I just saw it. All Along the Watchtower was on that record,
Oh, that's on
and
John Wesley Harding.
yeah, and then
Okay.
some guy made it way more popular. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Some up and comer.
hmm
Best R&B solo, Aretha Franklin with Respect, and best R&B group, Sam and Dave with Soul Man.
Yes. Oh, what a great song.
Yeah. So for music, 1967, phenomenal year.
Oh, no
Absolutely.
doubt. No doubt.
And to close that out, the people born in 67 were our high school years. Yeah. So check out this list.
Yeah. I
Top it off,
saw
you've got,
Danny's text earlier.
yeah, Danny wants to make it known, Kurt Cobain, born in 1967. And then you also got Dave Matthews, R. Kelly, Zach Wilde, Billy Corgan.
Zach Wilde is that old, huh?
Yeah.
I thought he
I
was
would have
younger
thought he was
for
older,
some reason.
actually. I thought Zach Wilde was
Really?
older. John Barrowman, John Popper, Liz Phair, Master P.
Damn. Master P. He's not alive though anymore, right?
I
Master
think he
P.
is. If he died,
I
I don't know about it.
thought he died, but maybe I was thinking of something else. But Liz Phair, though. All right.
Yeah.
I love Liz Phair from Chicago.
Tim McGraw and Faith Hill.
No way. I didn't know they were the same age.
Same age.
Wow. Damn. That's
Noel
cool.
Gallagher.
Really? Noel
Gallagher.
Gallagher's the same age as Kurt Cobain?
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. If you think about it, it's just because their album was later. That was 94, their first record.
Definitely,
So,
maybe.
yeah. So that's I would have thought he'd be younger, but I mean Liam's a couple years younger, so maybe that's
Noel
probably
the
why
older
I
one?
think that. Yeah, Noel's the older one.
Heavy D.
Heavy D and the Boys. All right.
Yeah, haven't heard that one in a while.
Hey, what about the Boys? I wonder how old they were. Like, were they the same time or?
Heavy D died though. I don't remember how long ago.
He did die. Yeah. I think Master P's dead too, but
Dave Navarro, Juliana Hatfield.
I thought Dave Navarro would have been older, honestly, because I think Perry Farrell's older though, and they're in the same group. I mean, they were in Jane's Addiction. Because think about it, like Jane's Addiction's first record, was in the like 85, 86?
What's that?
Or something like that.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know they went that deep into the 80s. Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously Nirvana's first record was 89, but oh, man, I'm kind of some of these people. I'm really surprised that they were born in 67.
Lane Staley.
That's even more. Well, no, that first record was 1990. So
this one surprised me though. Jeff Tweedy. I expected him to be younger.
Steve. I mean, I'm sure. I think Steve or Luke probably talked about it in his record. His record that they were Uncle Tupelo before, and so like.
Sure. Oh yeah, I remember that.
They had 4 records out, and I think that first one was like 87. Yeah, so I mean, it makes sense. It's just you think about like how popular Wilco was and when it was popular, like 2001, 2002, when they really kind of got big.
Yeah.
And by that time, Lane's dead, Kurt's dead.
Yeah. Of this list, Dave Matthews would have been the only one kind of still popular at that time.
And I knew Dave got a late start, because he was a bartender at UVA's campus in Charlottesville, and he just kind of played around in the bars and the fraternities and stuff, and then somebody caught him. He used to just be a solo guy. I used to be bigger into Dave in college, I think, like everybody else, and I used to highlight my hair too, though, Steve. So I mean, we can't really say what happened.
Why did you stop?
I'm missing a whole chunk of it. That's why.
Harry Connick Jr., one of my personal favorites there.
Wow, I thought Harry was younger, but I mean, he looks younger though.
He's been playing in the bars in New Orleans since he was a kid. So
right, I think that's what it. Because he's just been. He just looks younger than those guys. So too, I think he's a little more clean living than those guys though.
Well, when was When Harry Met Sally? Because he kind of blew up with that soundtrack. Was that late 90s? Or was that 80s?
I think late 80s or early 90s.
Okay, late 80s. Yeah. Okay, yeah, late 80s. So that's when he took off with those covers.
And he was in Hope Floats, right? That was him with Sandra Bullock.
Maybe.
Right?
I don't know.
It was a romantic comedy that he was.
Memphis Belle. Yeah. Check out Memphis Belle. He's one of the guys on that flight World War II bomber movie.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Here's one for you: Matthew and Gunnar Nelson.
All right. Well,
two more: Scott Weiland to round out a lot of the.
Jesus.
Yeah, all in 1 year. They're only missing Chris Cornell.
Good Lord, where's Chris and Ed? Well, Ed turned 60 this year, so Ed is older than Kurt.
And finally, Mr. Robert Van Winkle, Vanilla Ice.
Really?
Yep.
I think that seems right. You know what? Speaking of him, real quick, do you know that he played halftime of the Lions Bills game? Came out, and the only reason I know he played it is because I was watching. Yes, I was watching the football game on Saturday, and they come back from commercial, and Joe Buck and Troy are laughing like their asses off. I go, I don't understand this. I'm like, I wanted to see this game because it looked like a game, and they go, well, and our guy Robert Van Winkle was, and then they started talking about, and Joe Buck starts singing and kind of rapping Ice Ice Baby. And I thought, I hope someone records this and uses it somehow. I mean, great. I'm not a big Joe Buck guy, but to listen to a broadcaster do that, I was dying. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Especially the fact that Troy Aikman just seems like such a square, and and so does Joe Buck. And the fact that they're just both they're jazzed, they are pumped up for Vanilla Ice playing at halftime. I'm like, first of all, how do you get a stage up there quick enough? Because regular season halftimes are only 10 minutes long,
and they're not televised. So it's just for the crowd there,
right? And he's not from Detroit, so.
Yeah, isn't he from Miami?
Well, that the Ice Ice Baby video always had him driving, and he had Miami Hurricane gear on.
Yeah, A4A, Beach 1 Avenue. That's all Miami lingo.
Yes.
There.
Yeah, girls were hot wearing less than bikinis.
Yeah.
Joe Buck didn't rep that part though. It was
gunshot rings out like a bell.